The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
The Trump administration is filing a lawsuit tonight against the state of California, charging that 3 recently passed state laws are interfering with federal immigration enforcement. Attorney General Jeff Sessions is in California himself tonight, declaring he's determined to enforce the law and reduce crime, and is seeking an injunction to block the 3 California laws, including one that justice officials say is preventing private companies from voluntarily cooperating with ICE officials. This confrontation, of course, comes shortly after Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf took the resist movement to a whole new level, warning potential targets that ICE agents were planning to arrest them around the Bay Area last month.
Nothing excites this administration more than the opportunity to enforce their draconian deportation policies. This is, I think, the most important thing to the Trump administration, particularly the Department of Justice underneath the leadership of the Keebler-Elf Klansman, Jeff Sessions. You were just listening to Ed Henry, the chief national correspondent for Fox News, reporting on Sean Hannity last night, because this is of the utmost importance for them to crack down on the sanctuary state, of California. Before I go into the story more, I think it's important to understand the lengths to which they are willing to go to undermine people who are here legally, people here illegally. Let's be clear, right? These policies absolutely have everything to do with attacking brown people in this country, not just people who come here illegally, but people who are here legally or people who are seeking to get here legally. It is to stop what Bill O'Reilly, and I played it last week, maybe I'll play it here, what Bill O'Reilly referred to as the browning of America. Because you know, if it gets too brown, then you might have what Tucker Carlson always talks about, white genocide. But listen to Ed Henry as he ties in a completely unrelated murder on the other side of the country in this same exact story for no other reason than to make the audience afraid even more of the big bad brown people from across the border.
On the other side of the country, near Harpers Ferry, West Virginia, several MS-13 gang members are facing life sentences after they were convicted of restraining and then killing a Virginia man who was believed to be aligned with a rival gang member. Now, the gruesome part is the man was stabbed more than 50 times after being lured to a rock quarry. Then his body was dumped into a ditch while the MS-13 gang members tried to burn their own clothing to destroy the evidence. Bottom line is the Attorney General is now leaving the door open to filing suits not just in California, but all around the country, Sean.
All right.
Now, you would think that Ed Henry, trying to be a respectable journalist, would only reference information that's relevant to this story, right? That somehow maybe these members of MS-13 who ended up in West Virginia came there through crossing the border illegally in Mexico, going to California, and then subsequently filtering out into the United States. You would think that, but you would be wrong. These members of MS-13, a gang that was actually founded in the United States, all of these members are U.S. citizens, born here in the United States of America. I'm reading from the original reporting from CBS 6 in Virginia, and every single one of them, all 10, are from either Leesburg, Virginia, or Alexandria, Virginia. U.S. citizens. So what actual relevance does this story have to what's happening in California? None whatsoever. No relevance whatsoever. But it's just your milquetoast, your ordinary run-of-the-mill propaganda sleight of hand to say, here's a story that maybe you're not going to be so upset about, but let me give you some red meat to make you super afraid of MS-13. And if you're afraid of MS-13, then you'll pay no attention whatsoever to the Department of Justice essentially waging war on a state. And you would have no questions about a state's rights as a conservative, where in every other circumstance you're told to be concerned about states' rights. You would have no qualm with paying no attention whatsoever to what the Department of Justice under the leadership of the Keebler-Elf Klansman, Jeff Sessions, is doing to the state of California in the name of immigration policies, because you're so afraid of MS-13 on the other side of the country, U.S. citizens, a gang started in the United States of America, but they've made synonymous with illegal immigration. What a wonderful sleight of hand. What a wonderful propagandistic sleight of hand. And because of that, I have to offer my warmest congratulations to Ed Henry for being promoted to the Deputy Under Minister of Propaganda, second only to that of Sean Hannity.
Yet the president struck back this week with a major court victory, a federal judge ruling the White House can withhold $1 million federal grant to California because of concerns about that state's sanctuary city policies. That basically it's a sanctuary state now, giving refuge to about 2.5 million illegal immigrants right now.
And I want to read a quote from Fox News, and I'm using Fox News as a source here because I don't think that you're going to find anyone more vociferously against immigration and against sanctuary cities. But this is what they said in regards to the lawsuit from the Keebler-Elf Klansman Jeff Sessions. They said, quote, "The Trump Justice Department filed a lawsuit Tuesday night against California, saying 3 recently passed state laws were deliberately interfering with federal immigration policies. It marked the latest legal and political confrontation with the nation's most populous state, which the federal government says has repeatedly stood in the way of its plans to step up enforcement actions in the workplace and against criminal aliens." This is the paragraph from Jeff Sessions. He said, quote, "The Department of Justice and the Trump administration are going to fight these unjust, unfair, and unconstitutional policies," Attorney General Jeff Sessions was expected to tell California law enforcement officers on Wednesday. "We are fighting to make your job safer and to help you reduce crime in America," end quote. I absolutely love doublespeak when you say unjust, unfair laws. You know, just because something is a law doesn't make it just, right? And Jeff Sessions is saying that these laws are unjust because they protect people that they want to deport. And in many cases, they're deporting people who have committed no crime except for being here illegally, right? They're not actual criminals. They're hardworking people who have been working in this country most of their lives, contributing to society, paying their taxes. But because the Trump administration absolutely needs a scapegoat, like so many other demagogues in the history of this world, they have to have a scapegoat. And in this case, the scapegoat is anyone who's foreign, anyone who they feel is here illegally, anyone who's basically of a brown hue or of the Muslim faith. So he's calling this law, the 3 laws that they passed, protecting and creating what they want to call a sanctuary state. He's calling them unjust because California has said that they're going to stand against the bigotry of this administration. That's an injustice to him. People who are fighting, people who are resisting him, they are the ones who are committing the injustice, not an administration that has a myopic lens of attacking anyone that doesn't fit their particular worldview. Anyone who doesn't fit what Bill O'Reilly says is the white Christian male power structure in this country. Anyone that stands a chance of changing what they believe is the Judeo-Christian foundation of this nation, right? Anyone that contributes to the browning of America. These are the people that Donald Trump and his administration have an all-out war against. And because the state of California is resisting it, Jeff Sessions, the Keebler-Elf Klansman, has called what they are doing unjust, trying to get the moral high ground in the conversation by using doublespeak. But unfortunately for him, their morality rings hollow, empty, and devoid of any substance whatsoever. In other doublespeak news, Huffington Post has an exclusive on Secretary Ben Carson of the Housing and Urban Development. He's removing the anti-discrimination language from the HUD mission statement, and they will be inserting in language that speaks of self-sufficiency. It will no longer reference, according to the article, inclusive communities free from discrimination. And this is what the Huffington Post reported, quote, "Housing and Urban Development Secretary Ben Carson is changing the mission statement of his agency, removing promises of inclusive and discrimination-free communities." And this is what the new mission statement is going to read. This is how it's going to read. HUD's mission is to ensure Americans have access to fair, affordable housing and opportunities to achieve self-sufficiency, thereby strengthening our communities and nation. Now, to be fair, the article was pretty good in letting you know that the mission statement changes from administration to administration. Would you like to hear what the Obama administration's mission statement was? I would. Here it is. Quote, HUD's mission is to create strong, sustainable, inclusive communities and quality affordable homes for all. HUD is working to strengthen the housing market to bolster the economy and protect consumers, meet the need for quality, affordable rental homes, utilize housing as a platform for improving quality of life, build inclusive and sustainable communities free from discrimination, and transform the way HUD does business. I mean, this is pretty transparent. The reason I say that it's doublespeak is because they are saying they are wrapping the language of self-sufficiency, but what it in the mission statement. But what it actually means is they're going to put into play policies that are going to remove you from these houses. In actuality, they're pretty straightforward about this. Ben Carson says that he doesn't want people to get there and stay there. Essentially what it is. He doesn't want people to get there on housing and stay in housing. They have to find their way out. So I'm sure there's going to be some limitation. Never mind the difficulty of finding affordable housing. Never mind the exorbitant cost of rent in cities. Never mind the fact that you can't work one job and get a 1-bedroom apartment in most major cities across this country. You have to be self-sufficient, which means the way we're going to help you be self-sufficient is by giving you a time limit on how long you can stay in these housing projects. We're not going to change anything in the fundamental problems and the underlying conditions of this economy. The underlying problems is what I was trying to say. We're not going to do anything to fix the underlying problems because there's nothing really wrong with it. It's just that you don't have, you poor person, you don't have the mindset necessary to be self-sufficient. So now we're going to have probably some motivational speakers that come by and we're going to pay them some good money, your taxpayer money. I guarantee you're going to have people come by and motivate you and how to change your mindset, because if you, poor person, just change the way you view the world, then you too could be self-sufficient. Meanwhile, Ben Carson and his wife just spent $31,000 on a table, on a piece of furniture for HUD. My goodness. The hypocrisy is staggering. But at some point, we have to realize, I don't even know what we should realize from this, because we didn't need this story for us to realize that the conservatives and Republicans have lost their rabbit mind. We didn't need this story to realize that they are hypocritical. We didn't need this story. This is just another story that shows you how they will spit in your face while they're spending your taxpayer money, living lavishly. Meanwhile, you're the problem. Never mind the systemic nature of unemployment, of underemployment, of low and stagnated wages, how this system is designed to make sure that they pay you as little as they possibly can and charge you the highest rent they possibly can. That's the competing forces in this economy. But the problem really is that you're just not self-sufficient. And we're going to help you get self-sufficient. And never mind discrimination. What is that? Take that out. Completely forget about discrimination, because that's a thing of the past, right? And who better to carry that message, that water for Donald Trump than the black man, than Ben Carson, right? Because if Ben Carson, he's black, if he says there's no more racism, then you know what? He's a smart guy. He's self-sufficient. He's one of the good ones. Hey, if all the colors could just be like Ben Carson, then we wouldn't have any problem, because there's no racism that's holding him down. He was a brain surgeon, and now he's the Secretary of HUD. So if Ben Carson says take out discrimination because there's no discrimination, then there's no discrimination. Oh man, if I just switched my line of work from pushing what I really believe, which is progressive leftist politics, and decided to carry the water of white conservatives, I would be a rich man. Because nothing pays better than being a black person willing to do the dirty work for white people. Congratulations, Ben Carson. You're in the sunken place again. So I'm on Twitter, minding my business at about 4 o'clock this morning, because apparently that's the time I wake up now. I go to sleep early. I go to sleep at about 9. And I'm not sure why I don't go. Anyway, it's not about what time I wake up. It's about what I was doing on Twitter. And what I was doing on Twitter, I saw Chris-Cillizza of CNN. He's a quote unquote analyst for CNN. I saw him trending and I refused to click on it because, he's pretty trash in my opinion. He's been trash for a very long time. But then I stumbled onto an a conversation between he and Soledad O'Brien, who is Bay. Soledad O'Brien, love her since Today's Show on the weekend. But anyway, Soledad O'Brien, she referenced his article on Donald Trump. And the article headline says, Donald Trump is producing the greatest reality show ever. And Soledad didn't like it. And she said, this terrible analysis by Chris-Cillizza is in part why people hate the media. And of course, Chris, Soledad has a huge following. Of course, Chris is going to, respond. He basically got him. He was like, what's going on, Soledad? I like, what don't you like about my article, Soledad? Oh, and then she let him have it. She said, quote, it's not accurate. It's not funny. It's not clever. It's not analysis. It's facile. It shows an actual lack of understanding of reality TV. Can't believe I'm typing that. It's mediocre. Oh my God, I missed that until just now. It's a time when viewers need to understand what's going on at the highest levels of government. Listen, we're going to discuss the article, but let me first say she read this man for filth so bad that I actually had to tighten myself up. I'm like, I know on no day of my life will I ever be as horrible. On my worst day, will I write something as horrible as Chris-Cillizza writes on his best day? However, I don't ever want to get read for filth like that by Soledad O'Brien. So I'm going to step my game up. That's how brutal that tweet was. And then I stayed on Twitter long enough to realize today was just really a really bad day for hot takes I've got 3 here. 3 hot takes that I have to dissect. And I'm going to start with the Chris-Cillizza piece. All right, here we go. Chris-Cillizza writes in CNN, quote, you can leave reality TV, but reality TV never leaves you. That's the lesson, or at least one of the lessons, the first 13 months plus months of Donald Trump's presidency has taught us. Again and again, Trump's White House has looked for all of the world to look like one giant reality show with the same strong personalities, rivalries, backbiting, and surprise plot twists that have made watching other people live their lives on one of our culture's favorite pastimes. Tuesday, for example, may have made one hell of an episode. Okay, pause. The first transgression here is the fact that he's really looking at what's going on in the lives of every American who's being affected by Donald Trump's policies. He's looking at it like a freaking game. That should be enough for us to just cut the article off, because this is not a game for so many people. This is only a game for people who can afford for it to be a game. Generally, rich white men who could look at this as kind of just like a racehorse. Like, it doesn't really matter. I don't have a horse in the race. I'm just giving you the commentary. Right? That's not really the world that we live in. I mean, the stakes are high at this level. The stakes were high with President Obama. None of this is a game. But he's using the internal conflict in the White House, the drama, the scandals, the quick rise and the quick fall of particular personalities. And in this case, he's referencing Gary Cohn. And he says that this parallels perfectly what happens in reality TV. And he says this, quote, is there anything more reality TV than rapidly rising and then collapsing fortunes? The man or the woman who you think is for sure going to win Survivor or get the final rose, do they still do that? Or on The Bachelor suddenly falls into disfavor and then out before you blink? And then he says, the truth is that even Mark Burnett couldn't create such a high-profile reality show with this much drama, this many personalities, and this high of stakes. This is a project only Donald Trump could make happen. The medium and long-term impact of running a White House and therefore a country on the principles of reality TV remain to be seen. Bruh, no, we're seeing it right now. But Cillizza continues, people can't tear their eyes from this spectacle, sure, but lots and lots of them say they don't like what they see. What? Huh? Okay, Okay. And then finally, this is the last sentence. He said, quote, Trump is betting that in a few years, enough people will vote to renew the show, captivated by what possibly could come around the corner next, whether they can admit to themselves how much they like the show. Chris, I would like for you to have this conversation with the families that are being torn apart by this administration's policies, that are being torn apart by a Gestapo version of ICE that's not only deporting criminals in massive numbers like the Obama administration did. He was the deporter in chief, but now ICE is deporting people who are not criminals, who've committed no crimes, and breaking up families and sending children back to countries that they have no experience with. I want you to have this conversation about reality TV with them. See, for this analysis to make any sense whatsoever, you can only view this through the lens of what's happening inside the White House without any concern for the ramifications of all of the policies that are coming out of the White House. In other words, Chris is only concerned with what is happening in D.C., not with how what is happening in D.C. affects the rest of the world. What an insanely juvenile, fatuous, and irresponsible take, especially using a platform as large as his, when so many people are being hurt in a very direct fashion by this president. And you think that it's worthwhile to use your voice to say, hey, I know this is an observation that, quite frankly, most of us had before he became president. We all knew that this was going to be like a reality TV show because he is a joke. And now, anyway, on to the next article. The Federalist.com offers us our next article of ridiculousness. Yeah, I'm reading an article in the Federalist because I'm a glutton for punishment. This is written by Robert Trzynski, and his headline says the following, quote, Dear annoying Parkland kids, we gave you a pretty awesome world. Try not to mess it up. And his subtitle, Let's look at Parkland's arrogant presumption that previous generations messed up the world so that they have to rebuild it. Okay, so first, I mean, oh man, this is ridiculous because you can never win the argument between, hey, young people, get off my lawn. You can't win that argument. Not when that's your approach, but he's going to give it a try. This is what he says. All the reasons for refusing to allow ourselves to be led by children were summed up in the latest coronation of the Parkland kids. The coronation. Wow. Okay. This time by ancient leftist Bill Maher, who I don't like either. He invited David Hogg and Cameron Kasky on his show so Hogg could boast about hanging up on the president of the United States and so Kasky could give us this sanctimonious little lecture. I mean this sincerely. I really do. To all the generations before us, we sincerely accept your apology. We appreciate that you're willing to let us rebuild the world that you effed up. Oh, I love the impetuousness of youth. I do, especially when they're on the right side of history. I love it. I love these kids so much. We messed up because we didn't do anything about it. We didn't stop this tragedy from happening again and again and again and again. And these kids are using their privilege, which they have plenty of, to actually change the world and address issues. And yes, we're backing them because what they're fighting for actually makes sense. They are on the front lines of these schools. They're the ones who are getting killed. They just lost 17 friends. It hasn't even been a month, and they have gotten so much accomplished that now you have Gramps on his lawn with his shotgun saying, essentially saying, we gave you, get off my lawn. The Federalist version of that is, dear annoying Parkland kids, we gave you a pretty awesome world. Try not to mess it up. But let's continue with Mr. Trzynski's fatuous analysis. This sums up everything that's wrong with these kids' astroturfed ride to fame. AstroTurf, that's a new accusation. They get flown around the country. They get invited on TV. They get puffball interviews like Bill Maher, all because they're willing to repeat in a cloyingly self-righteous manner, the message favored by their adult handlers, but not because they actually know what they're talking about. I hear, Robert, this is not going to end well for you, Robert. You think that they don't know what they're talking about because they disagree with your politics, and your politics have created a world that admittedly we on the left and Democrats and all the other people who are not insane gun-toting, Bible-toting, gun-toting, right-wing nut jobs. The rest of us, we have been unable to stop. So you've created a world that led to massacre after massacre in our schools. And I will be the first to admit that our generations and the generations before us that oppose you have been inadequate in stopping you. So the only reason you feel like they don't know what they're talking about is because they're challenging you in a very direct fashion in a way that you can't control. And the only thing that you can hope to do is write from your platform, thefederalist.com, and say, get off my lawn. But let's continue reading this wonderfully hilarious article. Let's look at the arrogant presumption that previous generations messed up the world. So that today's kids in their superior wisdom have to, quote, rebuild it. Start with the issues most directly at hand here. School shootings are actually down over the last 20 years. Northeastern University professor James, blah, 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 said that shootings are down. And you know what? Here's the thing, right? School shootings happen so often that if they're down, they're not down enough. Can we, it's like saying, I'm trying to find something that you can compare it to, Malcolm X. What good is it for you to say that that you're not stabbing me anymore when the knife is still in me, right? You haven't pulled it out. You've only pulled it out an inch and it's still in my back. That's not progress. Progress is remedying the situation so that it doesn't happen again and helping us to heal from what happened. And so you're telling kids that school shootings, it's really not as bad as you think, but you've lost 17 friends and teachers. It's not really as bad as you think, though. And you're an idiot because you think it's bad. Oh, my God, these guys are not going to win this conversation. Moreover, Fox being the professor whose research he's citing, moreover, Fox adds that over the past 35 years, there have been only 5 cases in which someone ages 18 to 20 used assault rifles in a mass shooting, meaning that the most common proposed new gun control measures would have little effect. Yeah, but you know what? If you look at Sandy Hook, if you look at if you look at the most recent one, Parkland, then those are the exact age groups. And so maybe it won't stop every single mass shooting, but what you're actually advocating for in this article is for us to do nothing. And you're actually advocating to silence children because you think that they're ignorant because they don't tout your talking points. When you would gladly put up some of these, like a CJ Pearson who's going to get out there and parrot your talking point. I'm done with this article. I'm done. You've already seen how ridiculous it is. 2 articles in one morning that I've read that is like mind-numbingly stupid. And in this case, so ineffective because really, like I said, and I just want to use the voice again, get off my lawn has never been an effective strategy for handling a generation that is out of control. And I say out of control in a good way. File this under I really should not be even reporting this. But I did say I was going to cover 3 really ignorant articles. And this one, I think, takes the cake. It's from The Sun, a news UK company, thesun.co.uk. And it's entitled Flakensteins. Snowflake students claim Frankenstein's monster was, quote, misunderstood and is in fact a victim. One professor even claimed that the murdering monster could have been protected by human rights laws today. There's really not much here. It's written by 2 people. I don't understand why Gary O'Shea and Thea Jacobs needed each other for a grand total of 150 words. I think they both thought that they could split the profits from the clickbait. But the joke's on them because I have ad block. So I didn't give them a penny of revenue, and neither should you. And I'm not going to give them another second of my time for analysis because I have filled my quota for making an intelligent conversation out of the stupidity of conservatives. That's all the time I have for you today, everybody. Have a great day. The sun is shining here in Atlanta. I'm going outside to do something. You should do the same. Talk to you soon. See you tomorrow.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.